Friday, everybody. Today, I'm going to be talking about what is probably one of my favorite things, kind of mindset wise, when it comes to business building. That is why it's important to view your business like a scientist would. In other words, you want to be treating your business like a scientist, looking at it like a scientist, viewing everything very much from the lens of a scientist. And today I'm going to talk about what that means, why it's important, what the implications of that are, basically all that good stuff. So that's what today's live is going to be about. If we haven't met yet, I'm Bobby Klink. It's good to meet you. I'm the lawyer and online entrepreneur behind Your Online Genius. I managed to take my business from zero to about $250,000 in revenue in 1 year. And so I've learned a lot about the legal, I know the legal stuff, but I've learned a lot about the business stuff. So, I've got a sense of this. So I wanted to share some of, kind of what my secrets to success are. And part of it's mindset. And that's what we're talking about today. So today I want to talk to you about the importance of creating, a mindset, a mentality of someone who thinks of the business stuff like a scientist would. Now, I have to kind of give a caveat here. Like, I'm lucky because I'm an INTJ on the Myers-Briggs. So that means I naturally view things like a scientist would. I like to try things and experiment and do all that. But I honestly do believe that that mindset has been a hugely important part of my success. And it's because I don't have a lot of hangups. So there's a couple of parts to it. Number one, it means I don't have hangups about failure. I look at what I'm doing as testing something to see what happens. So, there's the old adage that, Edison said things like, I didn't fail 10,000 times in trying to create the light bulb. I learned 10,000 ways that didn't work. And, we throw things like that around in the entrepreneurship space a lot, but I think a lot of people don't buy it. A lot of people still say, well, I failed, and they think, oh, it's a failure. What I'm going to tell you is you are going to have situations where you fail if you're looking at it from the perspective of, did I hit my numbers? Did I get what I wanted? Did I get my expectations? But if you go into it with this sense of attachment of I'm either going to fail or I'm not going to fail, and I'm going to succeed, and those are the only two options, you're going to have a problem because you're constantly going to be worried about failure. And that's not the place to be. The place to be is constantly wanting to learn. So let's talk about those two different mindsets and what happens. This is the person who's constantly worried about failure. This is the person who wants to learn. The person who's worried about failure, guess what? They don't take action. They don't take action until they feel sure that they're going to succeed. And that often means they don't take action, or they don't take action until way too late. And this kind of always brings me back to another quote I love, which is the General Patton quote, who said, a good plan violently executed today is better than a great plan next week. In other words, you got to be taking consistent action. People have commented that part of what I do is I take massive action. I get an idea and I do it. And part of the reason is because I view things like a scientist. I'm not afraid of failure. I'm not afraid that I'm going to try something that's not going to work out. I've tried a lot that doesn't work out. Literally, I recorded a podcast episode recently that'll come out. I think it's either next week or the week after. I don't remember which, where I do, among other things, literally list all the things I failed at. Not all the things, but like 8 of the things I failed at last year alone. And so I wanted to do that to encourage people, because I think a lot of people feel like, ooh, if I have a failure, that's a bad. Well, I learned so much. And the business I have today, I only have because I was willing to take action. And so, because I'm on this side where I view things as I'm going to learn, this is a learning experience. I'm going to, put out a hypothesis and I'm going to test it. I try a bunch of different stuff. Now, it's not like I'm all over the place doing a lot of stuff like that's bad. I'm testing things until I find something that works. And once I find something that works, guess what? I start putting more and more behind that. Let me give you another example of that to really bring it into a concrete terms. This last time I launched my template library, which is kind of my all access pass to all of my legal templates now and in the future. in January, I did a very traditional webinar launch, but I learned from my mentors that you're also going to email your entire list. And I also did a wait list. And what I found was that wait list converted like crazy. Now, it wasn't like 100% of the people on the wait list bought, but 20% did. And if you're in this space, if you get 20% of anybody to convert on something, that's really good. And the earnings per lead for that were like $162. In other words, every person I got onto that wait list was worth $162. And here's the other thing. I didn't put any effort into really getting people on the list or nurturing them along the way. Well, so I know that now. Now I know that wait list is incredibly valuable. So I'm telling people about the wait list, and I'm starting a nurture sequence where people on that wait list are going to get access to, are going to see stuff, going to hear stories. I'm going to tell them things about why they need to be thinking about things, etc. So I'm really going to be nurturing that because I said, hey, here's something that works. I'm not going all in on it, but I'm like, hey, I'm going to put put the gas pedal down. And I only do that because I'm always learning. I'm viewing it as a learning experience. So again, I tell that story not to make myself sound great, but to make the point that, hey, I learned that. And so now I'm not going to completely do something different. That's always going to be part of my plan. And I'm going to tweak over here this other stuff that maybe needs to be tweaked, but not that. That I'm simply going to kind of, lean into more, if you will. So, that's the thing. And again, I'm going to lean into it right now. If you didn't get your hands on my template library and you want to be able to make sure you hear about it when it opens, get the best deals, get the best bonuses, get all the behind the scenes stuff, I'd love for you to join the wait list now. You can do that by going to youronlinegenius.com/library. Again, youronlinegenius.com/library. And you can join the wait list, and you'll be among the people who are, hearing some funny stories, some not so funny stories, but then also get an opportunity to get your hands on the template library right when the doors open. So, again, I'm going to lean into that. But I don't want to focus on that too much. After I've kind of talked about this notion of, if you're a scientist, you're willing to act. If you're not, you're afraid to fail. So you end up not acting. The other part of being a scientist that was kind of implicit in the story I just told is you have to go to the numbers. You can't operate your business on gut feel. Now, you can come up with a hypothesis on gut feel and test it. But ultimately, the answer is going to be in the numbers. And that means you need to know your numbers. You need to constantly look at your numbers. You need to be constantly thinking through, what do I need to be tracking? What do I need to be looking at? What are the metrics that matter in my business? And how do I go about kind of maximizing them? So again, I know, for example, that earnings per lead. I know that it was $162 for the waitlist. I know that overall for my launch, it was $56. I know that my cost per lead for people to sign up for the webinar was $24.55. Literally, I haven't looked at that in 2 weeks or a month probably, but I know that number precisely because those are the kinds of things you need to know about the performance of your business, about the performance of a launch, etc. You need to track and know, how much does it cost me to get someone into my world, meaning just get a lead? How often do I convert them to a sale? What is the value of a sale generally? What are all of these other things happening? How long does it take me to convert them? And again, I'm going to talk about that. How long does it take for a while now? Because a lot of people don't think about this. A lot of people think of a launch as a one-time thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to do a launch right now. I get 500 people through my launch and I get X dollars and that's it. And they don't go beyond that. Well, you got to go deeper. You got to look and say, okay, where did those 500 people come from? How long were they on my world? How long were they on my list? Because you need to know those things because it can affect your strategy as well. And again, I'll bring it back to my world. What I've found is that often people have been on my list for 9 months before they buy, or at least before they make a big purchase. And so what that means is that I know when I get someone maybe to go through my next launch coming up in about a month, I may not convert them if they're just now joining my world or joining my list. but I don't forget about them. I understand that I'm making an investment for the long term and that I'm getting people on today who are going to pay dividends 9 months down the road, maybe 6 months, maybe 3 months, maybe 12 months. I don't know how long exactly, but what I know from looking at my numbers is that it's rare for someone to come into my world and immediately buy my big product. It happens, but not a lot. Most of the time, people have been kind of churning along somewhere on the smaller part of my business. And then, for some reason, they go through a launch, they've gotten to know me, they like me, whatever it is, all of a sudden, boom, they decide to buy my high dollar product. And knowing that is very important. Now, maybe you're different. Maybe when you look at your numbers, you find everybody comes into my world, and if they don't buy from me the first time, they're gone. Now, I think that's rare. I'm going to be honest with you. If you're actually doing the things you should be doing to nurture your list, to engage with your list, I don't think it's going to be one and done. But what I'll tell you is if you view it as a one and done, it will become that way. So I know a lot of people who have big email lists and never email their list. Well, guess what? If you don't email them, then you're not going to have much success, 6 months from now, if you try to email them for a promotion. But again, know your life cycle, right? And the classic example, of course, is, if you're someone who sells to a person during a particular part of their life, let's say you offer a product related to pregnancy. Well, you got a limited window there, right? I mean, a woman is pregnant for, we say 9 months. It's actually 10 months, as I learned when my wife was actually pregnant with my daughter. But you have that window of time. So you pretty much know there's a limit. And there's an outside limit. And so you've got to understand those things, the buying habits of people on your list, and all of those numbers are things you have to track. Now, I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I believe there aren't 150 things you have to track, but you need to track things like, on average, what does it cost me to get a lead just generally on my list? What is the average value of someone who joins my list? So, for example, I know that the average value of someone who just signs up for one of my freebies is about $11 over, a period of time. And so I know, hey, if I'm paying less than $11 for that person, I'm probably going to make money on average in the long term. So, those kinds of things, it helps you make those decisions. So you need that cost to get someone on your list. What are they generally worth on average? And then you need to know your launch numbers, your cost per lead to get them into your launch, whatever kind of launch you use, your conversion rates along the way, so you can figure out what needs to be tweaked. And by that, I mean, what percentage of the people who visit your sign up page sign up for the launch? What, if it's something they have to show up for, how many show up, how many buy live, all those kinds of things. And then ultimately, what is your earnings per lead? So the total number of people who went through the process, and divide the total revenue by that, and you get your earnings per lead. You got to know that stuff. You just do. And then the other stuff you look at, and you'll get a sense of it by taking a look and understanding it, and really get a sense of these long-term trends. And so that, like I said, is the next piece to being a scientist, because scientists love numbers. They're going to dive into numbers, and that's how they're going to make decisions. And if you're someone who doesn't like numbers, I got bad news for you. You're not going to be able to run a successful business without someone there really tracking the numbers. If you can't do it, you've got to have bring someone in involved in your business, understands what you're doing, and is tracking those numbers to make decisions. Because if you don't have that, you're just not going to succeed in the long term. So that's what I've got. Treat your business as a scientist would. And that means, you're always experimenting, seeing what works, and you're always tracking the numbers and making decisions based on that, not on emotion. If you start doing that, your business will get way more effective. And over time, you're going to perfect, and it's going to get more and more and more, productive. That's why we tend to see kind of the hockey stick, where it's like, boo, 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 because what happens is there becomes an inflection point where you really start to hit things and really start to find the things that work and start perfecting, and you get better and better and better. And so that's my recommendation to you today. Make sure you're doing that. Again, I already mentioned, if you want to join the wait list for the template library for next time, so you have all of your templates in place. Basically, you don't have to worry about the legal stuff anymore. You don't have to worry about legal problems. You can just focus on building your business. You could do that by going to youronlinegenius.com/library. Separately, if you want to hang out with a lot of online entrepreneurs who are trying to do it right, I'd love for you to join my online community called, it's just called the Online Genius Community. And you can join that by going to youronlinegenius.com/community, completely free. It's a Facebook group where, all these videos, I make sure they go in there, so you won't have to worry about missing them. There's other training. There's a chance to ask questions and answers. And there's a lot of really great people in there and great resources of people who are trying to build their business the right way. So again, I'd love for you to join the community by heading to youronlinegenius.com/community. That's it for now. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will be back next week. Talk to you later.